Hello everybody and welcome. I'm the grounded Gliscor favorite. I'm on the PokeTube of this channel and I want to welcome you to our week 1 battle in the PMC Season 4. And I'm your coach, the grounded Gliscor, coach of the Lowline Nidoqueens versus the Boston Kommo-o, coached by LevineMa. Sorry if I don't speak your name out correctly, I'm terrible with names. So, the team you see in front of you is from today's earliest team builder video, so be sure to check that out if you want more intel on what we bring. But just a quick run over, we have a Choice-Scarf Infernape, a Expert Belt Zoroark, a Life Orb Jolteon, Leftover Stealth Rock Seismitoad, Grass CMZ Energy Ball Latios, and of course Choice-Scarf Staraptor. As you see on my opponent's side, we see he has Skarmory, Alola Marowak, Virizion, Tyranitar, Clefable, and Ronan Wash. So, a couple of stuff I expected, couple of stuff I did not. For example, the Tyranitar I did not expect. And the Skarmory, for some reason, I expected Latias to be in that slot because of the speed. But further ado, I looked at his team and I actually saw that the best thing that I could do was open up Infernape, and the reason for that was because it has a nice matchup for pretty much everything, and it can also U-turn out if I don't like the matchup, so that's what I wanted to go for. Certain threats I need to watch out for, of course, are Tyranitar, Clefable, and then Virizion. The rest I don't really mind, I have answers for them. So let's actually get straight into the battle at this point. So as I said, I would open up with my Infernape as my opponent opts to open up with Skarmory, as I actually expected to also for a part. So as we see, I'm actually going to go for the U-turn right here, expecting him to swap out because I knew that he would not want to stay in. As he's actually going to go into his Rotom, and from the damage that I see that we do, I can't really get much intel pretty much. So I decided to go to my Jolteon so he cannot actually lock himself into an electric type move. So I go for the Volt Switch as we actually see that this is a Choice Scarf Rotom. So I actually want to take this opportunity to go into my Jiraiya, the Seismitoad, and then actually go from there. So he's actually going to switch out his Rotom and then goes out to the Skarmory as I opt to go for the Sludge Bomb, predicting the Virizion or something to come in. He's actually going to go for the Stealth Rocks right now. So those are up on my side of the field, as I'm actually also going to take this opportunity to get up the Stealth Rocks. So I'm going to pressure him a bit as well. So at this point right now, I actually opted to go for the Scald, as we see that we outspeed, and we're going to do a good amount towards the Skarmory as we snag a burn, which is going to be good in the long run. He's actually now going to go for the Whirlwind right now, and he's actually going to Whirlwind me out into my Staraptor, which is actually the most terrible thing that I could actually go for. So he's going to take a bit more burn damage, and of course, Skylar needs to needs to go back because he cannot do much to the Skarmory. So I go back out into my Seismitoad because I knew for a fact that Seismitoad could 1v1 this Skarmory, as Skarmory reveals the Roost right now. So we see a Stealth Rock, Roost, and of course the Whirlwind right here. But we gain a little bit of leftovers recovery and he gets a little bit of burn damage, as we can actually now proceed to go for another attacking move like Scald or something versus him. So he now goes into the Rotom, which is going to take some Stealth Rocks damage, and I can actually just go for the Scald because this would hit the Skarmory for most damage possible. As we cannot get the burn on the Rotom, but I actually decided to go into my Latios, predicting him to maybe go for HP Grass or something, as he reveals that he is the Trick Rotom set, so he is indeed Scarf. So he's forced to actually swap out and goes into his Tyranitar right here. He's going to get some Stealth Rocks damage, and I wanted to take this opportunity to actually go for the Dragon Pulse because it would be a neutral hit and I would not expect Clefable to come in. So actually the Tyranitar takes the Dragon Pulse, of course, and now I'm actually going to release the Bloom Doom on his face, which was actually a roll. In the sand, it has a chance to actually take him out. He did not Mega Evolve, which was a bit odd, but I'm actually going to get the Bloom Doom off, and as you're going to see, it's going to do a tremendous amount towards his Tyranitar, and it's barely going to miss the KO on him, as Tyranitar is going to go for the Dragon Dance at this point. So at this point, I actually get buffeted by the Sandstorm, of course, and now he's gonna Mega Evolve, and at +1, of course, he's gonna outspeed me, which I cannot do anything about. So I need to let Latios go in case he, of course, went for the pursuit, and I did not have a clear switch into up to something he could do. So Latios is gonna faint right here, as my Infernape is gonna come through and actually can proceed to go for the U-turn right here, because U-turn would be able to pick him up, and I knew that I would be able to outspeed him. So I'm going to be picking off the Tyranitar at this point with Infernape, which is just great. And I can now take this opportunity to go into my Jolteon right here. I get a bit weaker though because of the Sandstorm, the Rocks, and then of course the Life Orb in a bit. But he decides to go into his Alola Marowak, and after the Rocks, as I explained in the team builder, I'm going to be able to pick him off with a Shadow Ball right now. So that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. We're going to pick off this Marowak as well, which is just great. So that's a threat out of the way we did not even need to deal with. And Sandstorm is going to subside. So Virizion is going to come through. and I did not quite know what Virizion wanted to do, but I decided to stay in case he was a substitute variant. So I take a bit more life of damage, and as we see, he is gonna take his time to set up a substitute. So I'm glad I did not switch out right there, and glad I stayed in. So I'm forced to stay in here with my Jolteon because it has no use, because I do not have any defog options on my team. So I noticed that the Shadow Ball was gonna be able to pick him off, and Signal Beam wouldn't. So I'm gonna die to the Life Orb, as he is gonna put up another substitute right here. So he's going to get another leftovers recovery right here, as I'm going to go into my Skylar, my Staraptor right here, and I can U-turn out to break the substitute, because I was debating between Infernape and Staraptor, but then I noticed that Staraptor indeed could break the sub, whereas Infernape could not. So I'm going to go for the U-turn, and I'll go into my Jiraiya, predicting some move like a Stone Edge or something, as he indeed goes for the Sacred Sword at this point. So we see substitute, leftovers, and Sacred Sword, and he's going to get a bit more leftovers recovery, and I was really quite scared of this Virizion, because I expected the sub Swords Dance set. So we're going to get a bit more leftovers recovery, and he is actually going to substitute at this point, expecting me to do something like Toxic or something, but I go for the Sludge Bomb as I revealed earlier, and I'm going to of course break the substitute at this point, and at this point he's too weakened to actually go for another substitute. Him being too weakened for a substitute right now means that I'm going to be forced to actually make a play right here and potentially swap out, because he cannot make a substitute anymore. So I go into my Unagi to take the incoming Leaf Blade, which is going to leave me at a good amount of health, and I knew that Infernape did not need health to actually function properly, as we are going to actually be able to take the Leaf Blade fully, and he gets a bit more leftovers recovery. And I actually decided to go for the U-turn right now, as he is actually going to go into a Skarmory this turn. So I gotta take more Stealth Rocks damage when I come back in. As you see, we're doing absolutely nothing, and we're getting hurt by the Rocky Helmet as well, which is unfortunate, of course. But I now go into my Skylar, because this was actually my Zoroark right here. So I wanted to disguise it as the Zoroark, but of course he's going to notice that, because the Raptor was at lower health. So he's now actually going to go and switch out into his Rotom to sack it off to the potential rocks right now. And he is going to indeed see that I'm going to be the Zoroark at this point. So he now goes into the Virizion, and I did not have a clear swap into anything pretty much, because I needed the rest of my team pretty much a bit more healthy. So he's going to go for the Sacred Sword, and at this point I'm actually going to die, so that the Zoroark fainting straight away, which is unfortunate. So the Virizion gets a bit more health back, and it's going to be at the point where it's going to go for a substitute again. So I go into my Infernape right now, and I wanted to go and take this opportunity right now to go for the Overheat, because I knew that he would make the same swap as earlier and go into a Skarmory. So so Skarmory comes in, takes the Stealth Rocks, and is then going to be forced to take his Overheat to the face. So Overheat is going to be able to pick up the Skarmory as well, which is going to bring the score now to 3-2. And he is actually going to take this opportunity now to go into the Clefable, and I noticed that he is Magic Guard, so of course I'm forced to swap out and I go into Jiraiya, because Jiraiya could 1v1 Clefable depending on his set, as he's actually going to set up the Cosmic Power, and this is the point where I realized that I pretty much lost at this point. I could still take this back if he did not set up any further, but of course he's going to do that, and I'm going to force to switch out again and then go into Skylar, because Skylar would be able to do the most damage to this Clefable if he would Cosmic Power up. So he's at 2 Cosmic Powers right now, and I wanted to stop him from that, so I'm forced to go for the Double Edge right now. And this is the point where I would be glad if I could be having the Endeavor right now, and I knew that it would not be bad, but at the end, yeah, that's after game thought pretty much. I should have actually went with the Endeavor instead of the Double Edge, unfortunately, for indeed occasions like this. So he's gonna get up another Cosmic Power, and at this point I'm just getting a bit pissed in the match. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I really went pissed in this match, because I was like, if you do calcs, you already notice that 2 are gonna be enough. And of course he's gonna let me die to my own recoil from the Double Edge. So Clefable's gonna be back at full, so that's a round to waste, and I just need to go into Jiraiya right now. And Jiraiya is gonna be forced to Sludge Bomb, and it doesn't even matter if I get the poison, because as you see, we do get the poison, but it does not matter, because he is indeed the Magic Guard set. But of course my opponent wants to be fucking annoying and goes for another Cosmic Power, because he thinks that 2 or 3 are not enough. Let's go to 4, because then I assure some stuff right here. So I'm gonna go for the Sludge Bomb again. I'm sorry. And finally he decides to make a move instead of stalling this game out even further, and he's going for the Stored Power right now. and of course is going to be able to KO Jiraiya at some point. Jiraiya is bulky enough that it could take some, but not enough. So I'm forced to Sludge Bomb away, and my opponent could actually go for the stored power and can be able to take out Jiraiya right here, but it lives actually onto showing that it actually wants to proceed further in this match, but of course we cannot, so this is a losing match as I already mentioned. We came pretty close, and not gonna lie, if I had Endeavor on my Staraptor, then the game would have been totally different, because that would mean you could bring him down to the same HP that I was at, and he could soft boiled up, or but I could click Endeavor each time, which also means that I could go to Infernape later on, and then actually proceed to go for Overheat then and take him out at that point. But unfortunately we did not, and Jiraiya is going to fade to another stored power from the Clefable, which leaves Infernape, and Infernape is of course I could bring it back, not gonna lie, because at this point a crit Overheat would be able to take him out. Pretty close. No, it would not. It would do 71%. That's the thing. Yeah, it would do 71%. So he soft boiled. If he did not soft boil early on Jiraiya, I could have taken it back. But that's going to be the game. We lost 2-0 at this point. So that's unfortunate. Good game to LevineMa. Good luck in your further matches. And your Lola and Nidoqueens are currently 0-1, which is unfortunate. Good game to my opponent. And I'm going to Gliscor, and I will see you in the next video I'm going to make. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'm out. Bye!